And we are back with another episode of From the Rafters. Sam and I are here recording Wednesday, May 18th, the day after the Celtics dropped game one of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. They won 3 out of 4 quarters, Sam. They were the better team for 3 quarters of the game, but they collapsed in the third, and Miami took advantage. And that's all it took for the Celtics to lose this game by 11 points, 9 points, something like that.
11, I think.
It
really was 7. I think they scored 2 baskets in garbage time.
The word I used to describe it was that it was incredible how disastrous that it was. Incredibly disastrous. It was impressive how much they collapsed in that third quarter.
Well, yeah, it's just were apathetic out there. It looked like they didn't care. Tatum was moping around, throwing the ball right to Jimmy Butler and letting them get dunks for free. They couldn't buy a basket. They looked kind of timid after literally getting anything they want in the paint in the first half. And I think a little bit of that has to do with Rob cramping up, getting tired in his legs, whatever you want to call it, because he was a massive part of their success in the first half. He was the safety valve for the lob, and he looked like he was back, to say the least. And we can talk about that later. But the third quarter was a disaster class. I mean, you go in up 8. Really could have been 11 if Pritchard made a 3. I think that went in and out at the half. So they had a chance to even be up more. And you just don't do anything with it. You come out flat. You have the ball. No. You give up a easy look, I think, to start the half. Then you come up and chuck a 3. And then the ball starts to roll. And you give up a bunch of fouls early, so Miami's in the bonus. Quick. It's not easy to score more points than the other team when you're in the bonus for the majority of the quarter. And those of you listening that might be like, well, the refs, Tony Brothers, blah, blah, blah. No.
Stop.
No. The one, if you really want to complain about the officials, and I don't even know if this is complaining, it's just remarkable how many whistles Jimmy Butler gets. And it's not so much
he earned them. He earned those calls. I don't care how many, 18 free throws. The Celtics jumped at every single pump fake. He earned every single one of those free throws.
Even on drives. There wasn't a single drive where he would fall down and he wouldn't get a whistle. Now, I'm not saying he's not getting hit. I don't know, but I watch plenty of games, and the success rate of him getting to the line is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. And he earned them. He earned them because he played the right way. He hit the right shots. He made the right drives, and he didn't huck up threes like the Celtics did. I despise the argument that Jimmy Butler only played well because of free throws. Jimmy Butler was the best player on the court last night.
He just kind of didn't miss.
He was better than anybody on the Celtics. He was better than anybody on the Heat, and he was probably the best version outside of maybe game, 3, Giannis, where he scored 40 and 20. That was the best superstar the Celtics have played in the playoffs so far. That performance, Jimmy Butler deserves all the credit in the world, and I despise anybody on Twitter who says, oh, he only played well because of free throws. He was methodically picking apart the Celtics the entire game, from the mid-range and at the basket. He took 2 threes, and he missed them both, and he scored 41 points. He earned every single one of those points. And he finished with 3 steals, 4 blocks. He was a monster on both ends of the courts for the Heat. I love Jimmy Butler, and he's a big reason why
I can tell.
I just hate the complaining on Twitter. And I'll understand it when Giannis is playing the way he does, and this isn't hate on Giannis again, but just when he's forcefully going to the rim and he's so big and strong that he's pushing guys over. Sure. That doesn't happen with Jimmy Butler. He maneuvers his body in a way where he can draw the contact and get a foul. I said this. I went on a radio show last night with my buddy from Vancouver. Shout out. I've been on there a bunch of times, but the similar topic was brought up. Shout out Marcus. It was Giannis plays with force, and that's why it looks like he gets so many foul calls. Jimmy Butler plays with that same sort of intensity, but it's more finesse. The way he gets to the rim, he earns the foul calls. And I just dislike the argument that he only played, well, okay, Jimmy got 18 free throws, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. He earned the free throws. The Celtics collapsed in the third quarter. They were the better team regardless of Jimmy Butler, and they blew it. And Jimmy Butler took advantage of that. So I just dislike the notion of hating on Jimmy Butler because he played well and the Celtics played like shit.
I'm not saying that, by the way.
I know, I know, I know.
I
Of
just
course.
kind of think it's remarkable how like so imagine he's like shooting jump shots every time he goes to the rim. It's like he shot 10 for 10 on getting foul calls. Like he got it every single time. And I don't know. I mean, you have a take on it. I don't know. I just think it's remarkable. You just played Giannis for a series and he didn't get as many
Mhm.
whistles as consistently as Jimmy Butler did yesterday.
If I'm being honest, I feel like a part of it is the Celtics have to adjust the way they defend because they can get away with being more physical with Giannis just because he's so physical. I feel like in this series, and whether this is right or wrong, it's probably wrong, but it's just the way it is. Remember how I talked about Giannis gets a different whistle because he plays by a different system? Part of that is also Giannis probably doesn't get all of the calls other players do, and Jimmy Butler will because he's not as strong and as physical and as like overbearingly large as Giannis is. So him drawing that contact will result in a call more often than Giannis, if that makes sense.
It's
In my
fair.
opinion.
It
Yeah.
was just watching it was like every single, and there was one
And I'm not
where
saying that's right. I'm not saying
Prit-
that's right. I'm just saying.
Pritchard jumped past him and he got a whistle one time. He didn't. Pritchard did not touch him.
I think he caught the leg a little bit from what I saw, but
Soft doesn't count. It doesn't
I
count.
I agree. Those jump shot calls are whack, but at the same time, don't fall for the pump fake
I
because they
stand
fell for
by
it
it.
all night. They fell
I
for it
will
all
stand
night.
by it. I say it even if the Celtics are getting the calls. I just don't think for you to get fouled in a jump shot, they either have to hit your shooting hand and affect your shot, or you got to get tackled. I don't think, or somebody's deliberately trying to like break your leg, like a Zaza. Like closing out should not be a foul. I'm sorry, it's just not how I feel. Now Jimmy Butler pump faking dudes, and then
Don't bite.
yeah, whatever.
Stop.
But it's different. It is a difference. But
I know
um,
what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
we can get
Um,
past that and get back to the collapse because Butler was great last night. But we were talking about the actual game itself, and it's such a kick in the balls because I worked and I came home and I took a nap. And I wake up from my nap and I see all this stuff that Al Horford's all of a sudden not playing, which was not a thought in my mind before I went to sleep. I thought Marcus wouldn't play yesterday just because it's a lower body injury. He's big on his defense, and to be tip top on defense, you have to be comfortable. You can't be really dealing with a foot sprain and expect to
mhm.
stay in front of guys and be the best version of yourself. And then, we find out Horford's out. And then I go in with zero expectations. We did the show yesterday before the game with KJ, and I was kind of upset, to say the least. Right.
Yep, yep.
And I'm like, all right, well, here we are. And then they come out hot. Not even just hot, like just playing well. There's a difference between
They
being
look
hot
good.
and playing well. They were doing everything right. Their defense was great. Derek White was doing an excellent job getting through screens on Max Strus, who was running them all the way around the court. The Celtics were getting good shots, like I mentioned before. They had 42 points in the paint in the first half. It's like
Yep.
playing Milwaukee was like when you play baseball and you swing the bat with the donut in the warm-up circle, and then you take the donut off. When you take the donut off, that was the Miami defense. Inside, you don't have Giannis and Brook Lopez in there anymore.
Yep.
Credit to Miami, they made adjustments, which was a big difference in this series because Spoelstra is such a great coach, which we saw in the bubble. We saw a month ago when the Celtics melted in a game where Miami put on a zone, which I'm not sure they put on a zone yesterday, but they definitely defended the paint better. But yeah, man, they did everything right. Tatum was on fire. And then you're like, okay, like these two guys are out. They're still playing well. I don't know. They could get this one today. And then they come out and they're like, we got you. You thought. And they come out and just look careless. And Miami plays hard. And then they do that thing where they're like, hey, don't go to bed just yet. We're going to score a bunch of points real quick and make it close enough to where you have to stay awake and watch the end of this game because we could win. And they got it to as close as 7, and that was it. Which, good on them. They didn't quit, but it's just tough. That was a very winnable game, which we can get into after you give your thoughts, but it could make you feel
I
better or
mean,
worse.
like I said, they were the better team for 3 quarters of the 4, right? Like, they started off great, like, they were playing awesome, on both sides of the ball, and then this is why Miami is such a good team, because even when they're down, at the first sign of weakness, Cobra, you're done. Like, they'll bite your head off, and that's just how Miami is. That's the reason I've been so not afraid to play them, but, like, I feared them more than other teams in the East. And that's what I've been telling you all year, man. That's just like, and even coming to the playoffs, you told me you're like, watching Miami play is probably going to be the most irritating,
It
and they
is. They're
played
a bunch of
irritating.
irritating guys, man. And Lowry's sitting there in his much credit to Lowry being a husky fella wearing a sweatshirt in Florida in May. It's very
Peace.
impressive that he would do that.
Also, small update. Marcus Smart is probable
Yep.
for game 2. Al Horford is
Thanks for the
doubtful,
good
not
news.
out, which is interesting.
We got to talk about that after this. But
Sam
continue.
Hauser's out, and I don't know if you heard about Ime Udoka.
Lowry. Oh,
Uh,
this is, I mean,
not at practice, but non-COVID illness. Just about the worst possible time for illnesses. But I did want to talk about the third quarter before we discuss the injuries. We have to
okay.
talk about the turnovers because you mentioned it briefly. Jayson Tatum, a bunch of sloppy turnovers. I don't know about you, and I wrote about it, and I got kind of slandered in the comments. I thought Jaylen Brown was worse than Jayson Tatum, and
They're
I know
both
Jayson
bad. I
Tatum.
think
They
they
were
were
they
equally
were
as
both
bad.
bad. Jayson Tatum turned the ball over 6 times in the third quarter. Never okay, right? Like he had a bunch of sloppy passes that weren't crisp that got picked off by Miami. But Jaylen Brown has continued to be like the most inconsistent star player in the playoffs. And maybe it's just me, but my friend Jack Kelly, who writes for Hoops Habit, he mentioned this to me, and he's a Pistons fan. He texted me, um, Brown seems to be a barometer of sorts for you guys. If he has a horrible game, the Celtics struggle, right? And I agree. He's been extremely inconsistent. He can't handle the ball. Like, let's just put that out there. He can't handle the ball. If he tries to drive into the paint, he's either going to do a spin move and lose it, or he's going to get it stripped. That's how it's been the entirety of the playoffs. And I like Jaylen Brown, but it's really frustrating whenever he has the ball and tries to do too much because he doesn't have the handle of Tatum or Marcus or Derek or anything like that. He takes these like weird pull up, not timely at all threes, and he's shooting really well on pull up threes this playoffs. I looked it up and the stat was good, but when there's 24 seconds left in the shot clock and you're coming down all like the court and taking a pull up three when you're down 5, and then the Heat take like, and Daniel Tice even cleaned up the miss, so the Celtics still scored anyways, but it's just not a good look when you're trying to get back in the game. And then the free throws, man, how you can't miss that many free throws and expect to stay in a game like
6
that.
of 10.
Yeah,
From Brown.
he's been that frustrating throughout the playoffs, and I think that's why I maybe unfairly, I guess, picked on him over Jayson Tatum for my article. But when it's consistently inconsistent like that, that's what frustrates you because if Jaylen Brown plays well, they'll play well. But when he doesn't, he kind of takes over the offense so much to the point where it struggles more than it needs to.
See, I don't know how bad I think Jaylen's been. I don't think he's been that inconsistent. He's really only had 2 bad games, and Tatum's had 1. So, and yesterday was Jaylen's second like real bad game. And even, I mean,
By
listen,
the numbers,
listen.
yes.
He did
Okay.
play bad yesterday. He did close well. Like it was like one of those stat pad backdoor kind
Yeah, that's
of
what I was gonna say. It
games.
doesn't matter at that point.
I mean, listen, I just don't think he hasn't been real bad to where he's costing you a game. He cost you kind of game 1 against Milwaukee, probably cost you yesterday a little bit, especially in that third quarter. But besides that, I mean, he's been like fine. He's been fine. Like he hasn't had, well, he was really good in that second game 2 of Milwaukee. So keep your eyes open tomorrow or today when you're listening.
Yes.
I don't know. He's fine. I don't have as high expectations for him as I do Tatum. I hold Tatum to a different standard.
I understand that, but even the standards you hold them to, Brown hasn't been living up to it for me. He needs to be your second best player, your second most important player, and I don't think he's been their second most important player. I think Al Horford has played better than him and more consistent, and I think Marcus has played better and more consistent than him, which is fine. Like those two guys have stepped up enough to the point where it's acceptable for them to be that, but you still want more from Jaylen Brown. I want to see his stats in losses versus wins, and maybe if this proves me wrong, then it proves me wrong, and it is what it is. But
If you're looking up stuff, look up his fourth quarter stats for the playoffs because that's where I'm going next. I just think he has been, for the most part, there are outliers.
I don't want to look
great
in
the
the
fourth
Brooklyn.
quarter.
I don't want to look in the Brooklyn series. I want to
Why?
look
That's still the
Milwaukee.
playoffs.
Yeah, but
you can't cherry pick stats. You said playoffs.
Okay, fine.
You can't just like pick. All right, well, You could say if you said like he
Since
wasn't.
Milwaukee, fine. Since they actually had a viable opponent, because as much as everyone talked about them, let's be honest, that Brooklyn team was not as good as the next two teams they faced.
No, not in hindsight, but going in, and listen, he still had to be. Those games weren't blowouts. There was game 3 was probably the least close game out of all of them.
He's been great in the fourth quarter, the entire
He
playoffs, regardless of
he
where he's
was
played.
great for them in that Brooklyn series, and is a big part of why they swept them. I don't
Mhm.
think you should discount that.
He's been great in the fourth quarter, even like including Brooklyn, not including Brooklyn. He's shooting ridiculously hot in the fourth quarter. So is
Even
Tatum, and so is
yesterday,
Al Horford.
once the game was over, he was like, "Let me make all these threes."
And that's the problem. Yeah, like half the time in the fourth quarter, he makes these shots. Like it's less the shooting percentages that I have a problem with because he's scoring relatively well as a whole in the playoffs. It's the turnovers. It's the not making free throws. It's the, as we saw in Milwaukee, not paying attention on defense, right? Like it's those little things that keep nagging at it and keep nagging at it and result in transition buckets for Miami. You know, they get out running, they get a rebound off a missed free throw. It's just the little things that frustrate me with Jaylen Brown past the shooting stats. Because as I said, even with the pull-ups, like he's shooting fine in the playoffs, but
Mm.
like the turnovers and all that stuff is what's very much
The
frustrating. And
turnovers are killer. And
mhm.
I mean, listen, there's no correlation between the 2 games where Marcus was out, but I think because he was great in game 2 last year when Marcus was out. But last night, Marcus being out against Miami kind of forced him out of his element a bit to where
Mm,
he was sloppier. He was bringing up the ball in a lot of situations, which you never see. When Tatum wasn't on the floor, he was bringing up the ball. It was just a different type of game for Jaylen. Doesn't mean you should miss free throws, right? That's the same shot every time
yeah.
you're there. But yeah, he's fine. I'm not panicking on him. I get what you're saying, that the turnovers are an issue. If you really, and they've turnovers for this team have been an issue throughout the playoffs, or the real playoffs. If you won't want to count Brooklyn in the Nets series, they turned the ball over. Nets series, Milwaukee series, they turned it over, and it would come back to bite them in games.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at the stats, the real catalyst for wins and losses is, I mean, looking at it, Jaylen Brown shoots 50% in wins, 43% in losses. Tatum shoots, I think, 45% in wins or 48% in wins, 30 something percent in losses. Like, if they shoot well, the Celtics win. And then Jalen's turnovers spike from 2 to almost 4 when they lose. Like, it's just those two playing well determines the Celtics. And I didn't think, and I'm gonna lump Tatum into this too. It's just that Brown has been kind of itching at me, but when Tatum happens, a bad game, it's more pronounced. Both of them need to be better, and I assume they will be better. I can't imagine they play that
Mm.
poorly for the entirety of the playoffs because, for the most part, they were unforced errors. Like most of those passes Tatum made were unforced, you know, turnovers to
He was
Miami. Most of
lazy.
the, yeah, some of the
There was
Jaylen
one where
Brown
he just
things
passed
were,
into, I think, Butler's chest at the end of the quarter. He just like, here,
mhm,
it's right in front of
yeah,
him.
some of the Jaylen shots, like he could be working for a better look. Like they're fixable issues. Um, I've just grown weary, and this is the catalyst, the main thing for me. I've just grown weary of watching Jaylen try to dribble in traffic because it
Well,
just
it's fair.
it's pain. It's painful
It's not
because
my
he can't
favorite
do it.
thing.
And I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, I could do it because that's not the point. I'm just saying like for a guy that's paid that much money who is trying to handle the basketball so much, he needs to clean up his handle. And I assume we'll try to fix that in the offseason because it was better last season, if I remember correctly, right? Like it seems like he's
Mhm.
taken a step back a bit this year. And the free throws, man, shoot 100 a day. That's another thing that's just
Well, that's when you can be like, I could do that. At least I
yeah,
could. I can shoot free throws. It's not hard.
hmm,
Same shot every time.
very frustrating. What else? I was gonna
Injury
bring up something else
report. We
next.
talked about a little
Yes,
little
yes,
bit ago,
yes.
was kind of a breaking mention from us. We did get updates today. Uh, some more clear than others, right? Marcus probable for game 2, which is good news.
I
They
assume
definitely
he'll
miss
play.
him. He's playing. It's probably he's playing. They missed him in game 1. He definitely could have been another body to throw at Jimmy Butler. Probably more privy to any
I
kind of
think
fakes he'll be doing.
I think they missed him more on offense, man. They when in that third quarter, when they did start to turn the ball over, you could see that they were panicking. They were
Mm.
rushing to try to get any
Yep.
look. That's where Marcus and even Al come in. And I know you said this before too. They come in to calm everybody down and run the offense and take the ball in their hands. And I think that's where you did really miss Marcus. And Rob had a great game, which we can talk about, but I think he would have been even better with Marcus feeding
They
him the
play
ball.
well together. If
I agree.
Marcus is in there in the third quarter, to your point, I think there would be a couple possessions where he gets himself to the rim. That's
Yeah.
one thing throughout the playoffs he's done real well is get timely, like, good shots.
hmm
Doesn't always make them. There are times he misses
He
or
gets
whatever,
there
but
though, which is half the battle.
he's been pretty good at getting to the rim, especially against Milwaukee. There were some plays where I think it was game 4, maybe game 3 when they came back the first time and didn't win,
hmm
where he forced it inside and like he was wide open coming off of cuts, coming off of handoffs to where he wasn't the focal point of the defense and he took advantage of it. And I don't think anybody yesterday that wasn't particularly the focal point took advantage. Pritchard did for a little bit, but he was just hot making threes, which is good for him. But besides that, like Tatum and Brown kind of had to do everything. Tatum in the first half, Brown in the fourth quarter, and then nobody did anything in the third quarter. Um,
Yeah.
Besides that, nobody really sticks out to me in having a fantastic outing. Nothing
Nobody really
special.
played well outside of Rob, like you said. Like he's
So
the only one
yeah,
who played really well.
it'll be great to have Marcus back.
Need him. And in his absence, Derek White, I mean, didn't really have
Derek White
much of
was
an
fine.
impact that that's all Derek White is. And it's kind of disappointing in that spot. You kind of want him to step up into the role Marcus played, and he didn't really do that. Peyton Pritchard was okay. He didn't shoot well, but at least he was like, for the most part, taking pretty good looks, right? Like he was trying to get the
I
offense
don't think I
going.
had an issue. Pritchard's one of those guys where I think it's going in every time, so I really never have an issue when he shoots.
That's what I thought too. He took a lot of shots in
He did.
game 1. Like
He
he
missed
took
he missed a lot more than
16.
normal.
He did. Shot 6 for 16 and 4 for 11 from 3, neither of which are very good numbers.
Well, those are shots he had to take because you're missing 2
That's what I
starters.
was gonna
Those are
say.
shots that are available.
Yeah, I agree. You kind of need it. And he didn't shoot well. Neesmith was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed Neesmith in the. Hit the nail on the head too in pregame. He played 11 minutes, and I said he was going to play the Tice 10, which is I'm going to take a pat on the back. That was pretty close.
We had
But
similar takes. You said Tice, I said Pritchard. You were
same thing.
first. You were first to go.
But he was the defensive spark you missed with Marcus out. Obviously not as effective, definitely more reckless, but he
Yep.
had some very impressive blocks. He was hustling, and during a quarter when it didn't really seem like the Celtics were giving it their all, he still was, which was nice to see. So shout out Neesmith.
He
If he can
should
get
be.
the
He
shot
doesn't play
down,
much. You better make the most
yeah,
of it.
that's one thing you can always get from Neesmith. No matter what, he'll come in and he'll play hard, and you need that. And if he can hit shots at some point, he'll be in the rotation. But that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon, man. He's way off, and maybe it's a confidence thing, but it's definitely brutal. The biggest not issue, but the thing that sucked the most about this game is outside of Butler and probably Gabe Vincent, who made a couple ridiculous
But no
shots.
business doing that. Neither one of them had any business doing what they did, by the way. And I'll stand by the Jimmy Butler one. He didn't miss very many shots. He
Mhm.
made very timely shots time after time. When the Celtics came back in the fourth, they had cut it to 10. Miami took a timeout. Celtics play a good defensive possession. Butler hits a prayer fall away with 1 foot in front, 1 foot
Tough looks.
behind of the 3-point line. He was just making everything.
I will say he played better. Like he's not going to drop 40 every game, but that's how he's been playing in the playoffs. Like he's averaging 30. Like it's not like this is completely otherworldly for him. He's playing really well,
Yeah, but it's
which is
not
frustrating.
so much about the points to me, it's about the efficiency.
Shots. I mean, that's his playoff
What are his
efficiency.
percentages for the playoffs, Jack? Let's see, what did he shoot yesterday?
Let's see. Yesterday, Jimmy Butler shot 63%, so it was definitely up there, but I think
Yeah.
he's shooting like 54, 55 in the playoffs.
Okay.
He's shooting 54% in the playoffs, yeah.
It's a little higher than I thought it would be, but still, like, it's still ridiculous what you saw yesterday. I mean, you have to give him
Oh, yeah,
credit.
made
He
tough
made
ones.
the shots, but
Mhm.
there are a lot of times the Celtics played good defense on him. I'm not sure he's gonna keep that up.
I don't think he'll average 40 for the
And
series.
let's
I
call a
think he'll
spade a
probably
spade, Jack. It's not let's not act like the Heat have been playing against top defenses where it's hard for him to get good looks.
That's also true, but to me, that makes it like maybe like from your perspective, frustrating. From my perspective, impressive that he managed to make it against a better defense like the Celtics. And
Well, my
again, I
my
think
my point is like I'm not convinced he's going to be doing that every day.
yes, and that's fine. I don't think he'll
Even
average 40.
averaging 30. Like well, for
No,
the
no,
series he might because he's got a head start. But after this, I'm not. If you take out game one for the rest of the series, I'm not convinced he averages 30 in the remainder
no,
of the
no, and
games.
I agree with that because I think the Celtics will adjust. But I'm just
And
saying,
Marcus will play, which will be a difference
yes,
maker.
that will help. That will help as well. I just looked at stats and I saw 14 rebounds and 7 assists. I'm like, Jimmy Butler's been doing that, but I was looking at Giannis, so never
Oh,
mind. Ignore me. I was like, wait, what? No, no. Um, Gabe Vincent though was definitely irritating. I'll give
can't
you
make
that
it up,
one.
man. There's always somebody. Him,
Yep.
Hero, who's been
And
horrible in the playoffs, from what
in
I
my
understand.
Hero wasn't even great. I mean, he
He
shot
was good in
okay
the
from the
first
field.
half. He was the player.
He
He's
was.
the
He didn't shoot
reason
well
that
from
game was
three.
close.
Mhm. I did tell you about Gabe Vincent. I obviously didn't think he'd play this well, but I told you he'd be the guy that you didn't know that would irritate you.
Well, I knew who he was because you kept talking about him, but I was irritated when
And
he made some deep threes. Like, give me a break,
those were
man.
ridiculous. Those were uncalled for, I will admit. Openly. And Max Struess, man, he didn't shoot too well, but he made the timely ones. He
I
made
can't
the annoying ones.
yeah, he did make the annoying ones. You're absolutely right. And you had, sure enough, the people on Twitter, oh, the Celtics let him go. I'll tell you, man, if he was
Mhm.
on the Celtics, he wouldn't have seen the floor.
No.
Even if they signed him, he wouldn't have seen the floor.
And I will again not counter it, but add the fact that maybe that's just the deeper issue with some of Boston's lower level development. Obviously, they're good at developing players they pick, but like Miami has perfected the we're going to pick up this guy off the scrap heap and turn him into a rotational NBA player. So if you want to, shit on the Celtics for not being able to do that, sure, whatever. But I'm pretty happy with the way that they developed their current rotation. So sometimes shit happens. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world. Uh, we can talk about Rob briefly because he was really good, and we can talk about a positive instead
Well,
of
we have
negatives.
another injury on the report to discuss, Jack.
Which one is that?
Horford, the the
Ah,
the big kick in the nuts at 4 p.m. yes, or whatever time it was. So
yeah.
what he is out for game one as of yesterday,
Mhm.
right? We get the notification. He's listed as doubtful for game two.
If I had to guess, and this is complete speculation, I have no idea. The team hasn't said anything because they keep things private, which is fine. Like player privacy, it is what it is. It's definitely annoying when you don't know as fans, but I'm not going to sit here and say I want my business shared out there into the world, so I'm not going to force them to share theirs. But if I had to guess, somebody close to him, family, friends, whatever, tested positive. So he is close contact and the rest of the team, excuse me, is not because they're one step away. He tested maybe positive the other day. He's taking another one just in case it was inconclusive, and that's what's leading to doubtful. Again, that is a complete guess. I do not have any information. This is just me speculating, but that
Jack is
seems
saying the
somewhat
streets
reasonable.
are saying that he's going to get it was a false positive, is what Jack is telling
Hoping,
you right now.
hoping,
I'm
but
hoping for that.
yeah,
I don't know we obviously don't know what happened. I mean, I work at a news station. Jack writes blogs. We're not. I mean, Jack's more dialed than I would be, but I hope he's in the same boat I was in when I went to England and I popped a positive 2 days before, and I thought the trip was going to cancel, and then I got a bunch of tests and they were all negative. So you never know. But
you never know.
if see, that's a good hypothesis because what I was going to say is, do we even know what the rules are now? Because if he
There's no everyday testing.
there's
You
no
only
everyday
test if
testing
you show symptoms.
or if you're not vaccinated, right?
He is vaccinated.
Well, that's what he said. He's vaccinated.
I don't think he
He
would
could have
lie.
lied. I don't think he would lie either. But I
Yeah.
mean, he's now in protocol. So,
This is
but
his
even if he's
3rd
positive, like what are the rules? Like we don't know what the rules are anymore. They keep changing.
nothing. I think it's 5 to
Not what do you
7
mean?
days.
Oh
I
man, that's brutal.
I think he'd be back for probably game
I
4 or
was in the
5.
boat of really hoping like everyone got it, so they had to push back the series.
Yeah, I don't know. This is Horford's
Sam, you
3rd
shouldn't wish that on
time
people. Yeah, I know. I'm just joking.
3rd time in protocols this season, by the way.
It's a hat
In
trick. Play
case
the
you're wondering.
lottery.
Brutal.
It is
Very
brutal,
brutal.
man. I mean, that is like probably the guy going into the series I was more excited than anybody else that would be playing this time around compared to the last time these two teams met, because they would have a better answer for Bam than they did before. He's about the same size. He's known for defense. He did an excellent job on Giannis throughout a whole series there. And he would have a chance to play Bam, guard on the perimeter, and keep Bam from dominating games like he did in the bubble, dominating a game like he did a month ago at the Garden. He was huge in that game that the Celtics lost. And he gets COVID. And Grant's trying his best. And so is Rob. But Grant got his face stepped on.
Yeah.
Literally had his face stepped on.
That was not a flagrant. That was not a flagrant foul on Bam.
Which one? The one where he undercut Rob? They didn't call the flagrant.
That one was a flagrant. Not that he intended to do it.
They didn't call a flagrant on him stepping on the face.
I know it wasn't. That was not a flagrant.
It was a foul on Grant.
Yes, it was a foul on Grant.
I disagree.
I agree.
He ran him over first.
Maybe it was a charge. Sure,
it should have been a charge first.
I'll have to go back and watch, but there was no foul on him kicking him in the face. He tripped over Grant.
In my opinion, it's a no call.
Sure, even that, but the kick in the face, I don't think it should be a call either.
No. I wasn't saying that. I just thought it was funny.
The Bam
Grant, the second player on this team to be kicked in the face in the playoff series.
Bam undercutting Rob was a flagrant, but it was not intentional. Bam very clearly, thought the pass that was thrown to Rob was a shot, so he was trying to block out Rob and box him out, and Rob was going up for the lob, and it ended up poorly, but it's flagrant, not intentional, nothing bad like that. We can talk about Bam's comments too. I see a lot of division on Twitter.
Oh, Bam's a prick for that.
You're not happy about it, but
yeah, I woke up for my shift today. I was not happy.
Well, tell the people what it is first.
So he said in his press conference, I guess the energy shifted, poking fun at the Jaylen Brown tweet that we've all been hanging on to for half a season since they all of a sudden decided to be good. And I'll say what I said when Giannis did that stupid shimmy celebration in Game 3. You cannot let him get away with this. You cannot let somebody like say something like, first of all, you talking when you're up, congratulations. You can't let them say something like that and do nothing about it. Mm-hmm. You can't. You this is no better situation than this one to respond after a game 1 loss that you really should have won. With missing 2 guys, I mean, Miami won themselves that game. Don't make any mistake about it. But the Celtics equally pissed that game away. They were dominating that first half to the point where I was even feeling comfortable at halftime, which never happens. Never happens when they have a lead.
You were comfortable at halftime.
Well, I wasn't comfortable, but I was like,
I was going to say.
I was like, wow, they really.
I thought they should have been up by more.
Holding on to this. I
thought they should have been up by more,
But then I was really confident when I saw the points in the paint stat. I was like, oh my God. Usually, when a team's shooting a high percentage, I don't feel as good. And I was like, oh, well, they're shooting 59%, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, oh my God, well, they're shooting that high because they're getting to the paint and nothing. So that was part of it. But yeah, you kicked that game away. You didn't show up in the third quarter. You lose by 25 points, which is egregious in a quarter.
Now, sorry, go ahead. Finish your.
I mean, you won the rest of the game by at least 14.
Yeah. Do you think Bam knew what he was doing?
Oh yeah. What do you think? He's an idiot?
Well, no.
What is the defense to that? What have you seen? Go ahead.
I'm not saying I have an opinion either way. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, even Celtics fans, say, "Yeah, I don't think he did it as a shot at Brown."
No, he did it. He did it as a shot at Brown.
Celtics fans saying, but we want Brown to play better, so we hope he takes it personal. I've seen Heat fans, obviously. I mean,
let's go to the review. Let me watch the clip, okay? Because I have not watched the clip. I have seen the quote with a picture of him sitting next to Hero.
It's when you watch it, it's a little bit more borderline. It's a bit like.
Here we go. I'm watching it.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know. It very well could have been just him talking about the game because he didn't smirk or anything or laugh or anything. It was just he kept talking. And
okay,
you see what I'm saying? Yeah, it's a little bit.
Okay. He did not. I saw the picture of him and Hero sitting there.
Yeah, Hero wasn't there yet.
I thought that's what was said. I still think he did it on purpose, but
He could have.
I feel less angry. But
Angry.
still, whatever it takes, get fired up. You can't let him get away with this kind of thing. That
Mhm.
is like, hey, we just beat you. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Show us you're going to do something. You better show them. This is a golden opportunity to get to the finals. I'm sorry. I know the Heat are no joke. I'm not saying they're a joke.
Of course.
The Celtics are, in my opinion, the better team. I just feel that way. I feel Tatum should more consistently be better than Butler. Or he should be better than Butler on a consistent basis.
He should
wasn't
definitely be
yesterday.
better than what he was last night. That's what I was gonna say.
Besides the turnovers, he really wasn't that bad. Turnovers
Yes.
are a big part of it. He had an efficient 29 or however many he ended up with.
He didn't shoot well from 3, though, is my
That's
issue.
fine. He was still efficient.
Well, that's fine until you
what did
realize
he shoot from 3? I feel like he didn't chuck a bunch of threes.
2 for 10.
Oh, well, I was wrong.
My thing is, and this is just the stats, and I didn't really pick up on it until I saw it. In Celtics wins this postseason, Tatum is shooting 44% from 3.
Oof.
In Celtics losses,
high
Tatum is
clip.
shooting in losses, Tatum is shooting 22%. He's literally shooting double from 3 in wins. Like Tatum being hot from 3 is the key to Celtics winning games.
How many
like,
of
more than
those
anything
threes
else.
he take in the third quarter?
Last night?
I'm just curious.
He took 2 in the third
That's
quarter.
it? Man. Jeez. I just thought he was much better than that. I guess I was wrong.
And he was 1 for 3 in the fourth, 0 for 2 in the first, 1 for 2 in the second.
Brutal, man.
So he took them all over the place, but it was just excuse me, it was just not it. And I want to make sure I'm not bullshitting you with these numbers. Tatum shooting 37% on the playoffs this season. In wins,
3.
Yep, from 3. In wins, he shoots 44% on 9.5 attempts.
Yep.
In losses, he shoots 23% on 9 attempts. So
okay.
like that's as clear as day as you can possibly get.
I truly believe he should be consistently better than Butler. He was not yesterday. There's no debate. Obviously, Butler was great. So you have the best player in the series. I still think that. I think Bam is an excellent.
You should have the best player in the series. You did not in game 1.
Yep.
Clearly.
There you go. You should.
I
think the Miami Heat are deep. I think the Celtics are also deep. They don't have as many guys, but I think the guys they do have are better than the guys Miami has.
I will say this though, and this is going to piss you off, and it's probably biased because I covered the Heat for a few months.
No, I think it makes you more knowledgeable than I am. I really don't know.
I don't think the gap between Tatum and Butler is as large as people make it out to be. I think Tatum is better, but I don't think it's by this ridiculous margin. Like I still think Jimmy Butler's a top 15 player in the NBA.
We'll see.
I mean, he's played
after game 1. It's looking pretty good for you.
Well, I'll ask you that. Do you think he's a top 15 player
in the league? Let's see. Well, I'll list them. Let's see. You got Giannis, KD, LeBron, Curry.
Here. I'll bring up a list. I'll write it down for you. So
okay.
Well, we'll do this. I mean, it's a valid conversation to have when you're in a series with 2 borderline top.
It's
10,
tough because
players.
He's a different guy in the playoffs too.
Yeah, which is fine, but you have to account for that because it is the playoffs.
That's part of what makes guys a good player.
Giannis, KD, Steph, LeBron. What else you got?
Tatum,
Jokic, Embiid,
Luka.
Who else? Who am I forgetting? Ja. You put Ja up there yet?
Yeah. Ja's good.
Trae Young, is he up there?
I don't know if Trae Young's better than
Kawhi. I know he's injured, but you want to include Kawhi?
Let's not talk about the injured guys. I don't like that. They're not playing right
now. Let me look up NBA standings.
Yeah, I think he is then. I don't know if Devin Booker's better than Jimmy. I don't know. It's a tough call for me.
So we'll put D-Book up there for now.
Sam, that's recency bias. Yeah, it is. One of them's still playing.
Paul
and the
George
other got blown out by like 50 in Game 7.
I'll put Paul George up there, probably somewhere.
I don't know if I think Paul George is better than Butler.
No, he's definitely not better than Butler. But if we're talking like listing top 15 players, he's up there. I'll put like even DeRozan would probably be, in the conversation somewhere. Like I'm still at only 13 guys with all the people we've mentioned. Is my point. So like
I feel like we're missing some bad ones. People are like, why didn't you bring up this guy?
Well, no, I mean, I'm looking at the top teams like Jimmy, we got Tatum, we got Giannis, we got Embiid, we got You want to put anybody in the Raptors? Like we got
No, I
KD,
don't think so.
Trey Young. I guess we could potentially put. Excuse me. Looking at the Hawks, Garland, LaMelo, Julius Randle. I mean Beal. Maybe if you
Julius
want to talk
Randle.
about
No
Beal.
Beal. No Beal. No, no,
Yeah,
no, 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 no,
exactly. And
no.
then Pistons, Magic, and then
Yeah,
you look at
okay. Fair to say Butler's top
the
15.
West.
We don't have to fill out the rest.
I mean, I'm doing it just because I've done it. CP3, I'll put somewhere, even though Ja, Steph, Luca, the Jazz guys, D Mitchell and Rudy, maybe.
Maybe
And then
Mitchell. Maybe
Cat
Mitchell.
too.
I don't know about Cat.
Somewhere. Jokic, we got
I'm
Cat.
not
I just
convinced
threw at
Cat's
the
that
end.
good.
Ingram, PG, DeJounte. Oh, AD. That's the one we forgot, even though he's been kind of
sitting watching on the sideline.
Yeah.
All dripped out, him and Simmons.
And Lillard, I guess, but he was hurt.
He didn't
For the
play.
majority of the season. So that's 20 right there without Kawhi and Lillard. And I would argue Jimmy might even be top 10. Like, and that's
Maybe.
obviously borderline, and that's including Tatum.
I think that's recency bias, but I think it's valid
possibly
recency bias.
I mean, we talk about Tatum as a top 10 player, leading his team to the Eastern Conference Finals for the past few seasons, doing all this. Jimmy Butler's done the same thing. Like, realistically speaking, their resumes over the past 3 years are like kind of insanely identical. Obviously, Tatum has the scoring, but when you talk about winning, you could argue Jimmy's
Eastern
done a better
Conference
job at
Finals
that.
first round,
Right?
and then Eastern Conference Finals again. Yep, fair.
Yeah, and Jimmy took it
in the finals.
The step further. Yeah, so I dislike and I'm not saying you did this, but I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying, "Oh, it's not even close." Tatum. I'm like, all right, well, I think Tatum's probably the better player, but it's really not that absurdly out of reach. And I do think Bam is better than Jaylen. I'll say that.
That's
so
fair.
we could probably include Bam on that.
With what we've talked about today, I can see why you say that. I don't know. I think Bam. Well, I told you before the playoffs, I would have told you Bam was the best player on that team.
And now,
not after yesterday.
You're scarred now.
I do think Bam's a terrific player, though, and I've said that consistently, just because I've just seen him kill the Celtics over a period of time.
I mean, he's good. He gives you what you need to get.
He's good on the ball. He's smart. He doesn't really panic. He's athletic. He can play defense. He's strong. Like, he's really everything you want out of a big guy. He just doesn't really shoot the three. He can shoot mid-range jumpers.
He's like Rob mixed with Draymond.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which is that's not a knock on either of those guys, but Bam is better than both of them at this point. So, anyways, what do you think? And we can wrap up here in a few minutes. What do you think the biggest key for the Celtics in Game 2 is? Is it as simple as don't have the worst quarter of all time? Is it as simple as calming down the offense? It is shoring up defense on Jimmy Butler. Like, what do you see as the main priority or priorities?
I guess it's not so much don't have the worst quarter of all time, but don't panic when things don't go your way.
Maybe don't have the worst quarter of all time.
Yeah, I mean, don't do that. But in all seriousness, Miami is a team that's going to make adjustments. When things don't go your way, you can't just panic and mope around. I mean, they're literally moping around out there in that third quarter in a playoff game that you're winning.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad.
And I'm now firm. I mean, I've never been for this, but I'm now firmly on the don't complain to the refs train, because it's really starting to affect them.
And I think that could be a part of why they're not getting these calls. The refs are like, we're not going to give you the calls if you keep complaining, which, if I'm being honest, I don't blame the refs, because the Celtics need to shut up. Like, they need to stop.
I don't believe in complaining to the refs. I don't. I never did it when I played my minimal amounts of basketball. I just thought it was stupid.
You played more ball than me. I was physically unable to play basketball.
Did a lot of watching, but yes.
You played in high school, right?
Yeah, I watched.
You didn't get minutes?
I did here and there.
Even as senior?
So my junior year I played more, and then the high school closed, so we like morphed high schools. So there was more competition. But I was on the team my senior year. I just did not.
Okay.
I'm in better shape now than I was then too.
I played rec in high school. I wasn't built enough.
I also played rec. See, in rec, that's where I really.
Oh, really?
Played,
people at our high school, if you were on the team, you weren't allowed to play rec.
Oh, I was getting all the reps. I just liked playing. I really liked playing.
Yeah. I mean, I liked playing too, but I just wasn't built for it. My play style is also just doesn't match my build. I'm a center. I play center, but I'm not really tall enough with most of these guys.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, being our height is usually the biggest guy. At least in New England, it is. If you're listening, in different parts of the country where you got big dudes all around. It's like, yeah, you guys are like point guards.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I was the king. I played great in college when I went to the rec gym. That's where I thrived. I spent hours and hours in the rec gym first few years of college until COVID decided to fuck my plans up and just end all of my fun.
Well, here we are,
Uh,
2 years later, and it's still screwing things
they
up for
called
us.
they called me Kareem because I broke my glasses so many times playing basketball. I had to get goggles, so they called me Kareem, which was fun.
But
Not because
before
of
we
my talent.
go, uh, do you feel encouraged or discouraged by yesterday?
Discouraged.
You do?
I understand the argument of feeling encouraged because they played well and then blew it in the third, but like I don't know how you can feel anything else but discouraged after how they collapsed in that game. And again, I understand. And if you feel
Well, I'm
encouraged,
going to
that's like a
counter.
fair
I'm
argument.
going to say how I
Yeah, yeah.
feel.
I
I
just think
feel
I don't
like I'm going to let you finish talking, and then I'll talk.
know. I was just gonna say like I understand being encouraged, but this has become a theme. The theme of
Mm,
having one disaster quarter, one disaster moment. The Jays doing a couple things that screw up the rest of the game. And I think words. I think Miami is best equipped to take advantage of those moments than any team they
okay.
face in the playoffs so far. So that concerns me, and that's why I'm a bit discouraged from game one. And I think you blew like a great opportunity.
I agree that they blew a great opportunity. However, during the pregame, it's not an opportunity I thought they would get. So that was encouraging to
True.
me.
That was yes, the first half.
And if you really want to like look for a silver lining, did they crap themselves in the third quarter? Oh yeah. But
That's the
but
silver lining.
no.
Okay,
They
okay.
didn't quit. They
Yes, yes.
continued to fight pretty hard. And to be honest with you, they still executed pretty well down the stretch. Miami just kept making threes. If Miami missed a
Yeah.
couple of those shots, we really could have had a close game on our hands
And
yesterday.
do you know what I'll say? If the Celtics can keep the series even until Horford gets back, I don't think they'd lose with Horford. I think that's the X factor, if I'm being honest. I think if Horford comes in, he can be that extra source of offense, that extra source of defense
Mhm.
in the paint, which they did kind of miss with just
Calming
Rob out there.
presence.
I think the Celtics would not lose with Horford in the lineup. And smart
Wow.
too, but
Now, would you have said that before the series, though? I don't know if you would have. See, now you might be encouraged, Jack, because of, see, like
maybe.
they played well without two of their best defenders on the floor. And
Yeah.
Sam, why did they lose the game? They gave up the most points they've given up the entire playoffs yesterday.
Yes. Yes, that as well.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
they
yeah.
played horrible on offense in the third
I
quarter
see what
too.
your point, and maybe I'm just being hyperbolic at this point, but I really think Horford would be a game changer. And even like you said, coming into the series, Horford's probably the
Horford was
biggest
my
difference from
guy.
2020. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
And I
uh,
stand by that. If he's on the team in 2020, they have 18 banners. I'm sorry. And you can be upset if you disagree. Not talking to you. If you're listening, I stand by it. I think they would have had an answer for Bam in that bubble series, and he killed them. And throughout that season, they played the Lakers real well. They played them well.
I mean, when Ennis Cantor's giving the Lakers a double double, yeah, that's pretty good. Or no, he wasn't. Was he on the team that
Yes,
series?
he was.
Okay, yeah. So I'm right. Okay. Anyways, I hope you're right. I'm hoping I'll stay confident. But that was, in my opinion, a discouraging loss. But at the same time, I'm encouraged moving
You
forward. I'll
sound
say that.
encouraged. You sound
We'll be
encouraged,
hyped up.
Jack.
We'll be hyped up moving forward. Why not? I think the
I
Celtics
just
can do
think
well.
you gave him a pretty good swing there without two of your best defenders when you're calling cardsman defense. And not to mention those guys are no slouch on the offensive end. Horford more consistent than Marcus.
Although I'll say this, and you're going to disagree with me because I know the way you think, and I
Mm.
already know your response to this is going to be before the season started and before the playoffs. Second round was the floor. Eastern Conference was the goal. Anything past that was, cherry on top. But, and this is what I know you're going to say, at this point, you've got here and you're good enough.
Yep.
You got to make the finals,
That's how I
which is,
felt about the game yesterday.
yes,
You were
totally
there. You
fair.
should have won. You were there.
Exactly.
You win.
I agree. But
You're here.
I'm just
Win.
saying, I'm not going to be, hell, I'm not even going to say that. Win the series.
If I
You
told
got
you
to win
before
the
the
series.
season you swept Brooklyn, you'd be thrilled.
Yes, exactly. You got to win the series.
You beat
You're
Milwaukee, you'd
here.
be
You
thrilled.
can't. Yes, I think they can be the better team, and I think they need to win the series. So I'll just stop talking there. Anyways, We'll stay encouraged and
wrap
confident
there.
moving forward.
You asked me
think
for
they need
keys
do
to the
better.
series going forward. No more offensive rebounds. That's the last thing. I don't really want to get into it. I've complained about it more than I could remember.
Which is crazy that's still happening. Like,
Miami's
please.
not a big team. Like, that's the thing.
I know, man.
Okay,
Ugh,
that's enough
it's
of that.
ugly. Anyways,
I'm tired.
thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it as always, and I'll throw it to Sam.
Thank you guys very much for listening or watching. If you're watching, you're probably on YouTube, or you definitely are, because I don't think we post these anywhere else. Oh, no. Spotify is video.
We don't post the videos to Spotify because it gets weird. It gets funky.
Okay, well, then you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to either Guy Boston or Bannertown and leave a like. If you're on Guy Boston, you catch us an assortment of Jack, me, KJ, or Tim in the pregame, usually a half hour before, barring catastrophe where everyone's busy. Not sure that'll be it might be, because I got to go on this trip here, which will screw up the podcast schedule too. We'll see what we do here, but it's neither here nor there. If you're on the streaming services, make sure you follow, just in case Jack consistently does not tweet the pod, which has been the case.
I've tried. Apple screwed me, man.
Did you tweet the last one?
It wasn't on Apple.
Because Apple.
I didn't have a link.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But yeah, make sure you follow, because you'll get them as soon as they come out, instead of
this one will go up.
Waiting for
barring
Jack
any more Apple issues
to tweet them from @Jackson1NBA. He also is writing a ton. He's all over the place. And you can follow me at Sam LaFrance NBA if you want to see me complain. That's our show for today.
Tic-tac-toe.